Hold on, we gotta let everybody connect here. And we've got and Instagram is live and still waiting on YouTube. YouTube's live. All right, Jake.
All right. Welcome everybody to another episode of Making Turbo Pit Fighter with Jake Jacobs, Kurt Brugel, and for the second week in a row, Alex Turbin, Mr. Prolific comic creator. So
Alex.
we're going to rejoin our conversation from last week, and we're going to bounce around a couple of other items. But yeah, welcome. This is a post-apocalyptic sci-fi comic book being made live on the air. I'm penciling issue 2. Kurt is inking issue 1. And Alex, you're working on a pinup over there?
Yeah, it's just a little illustration of Thundar the Barbarian.
Right. And so so let's jump off that. So last week, Alex told us that he was drawing some Thundar, and I mistakenly, for a moment, thought that these guys were talking about Thongor. So I just want to bring everybody's attention to a post that I made about Thongor, because it just like crept up to the front of my mind, and I was like, yeah, what about Thongor? So Thongor was a Lynn Carter property. It was remember the Daw paperbacks and all those great paperbacks from the mid '60s with sometimes with Frazetta covers, and Marvel was actually trying to obtain Thongor before they actually got Conan. And when they finalized the deal for Conan, then they just dropped the idea for Thongor, and it wasn't till later when they were expanding the sword and sorcery line with Kull and Thongor, that he actually saw the light of day in Creatures on the Loose. 8 issues that had great covers. The first one by Steranko, and the next one by Gil Kane and John Romita. And the interiors were handled reliably by Val Myrick. So I'm remembering some great stuff when I was a kid, seeing those Thongors. And I'd probably pick up any Thongors that I ran into nowadays if I could. But one other thing that I read up, because I just went down a quick rabbit hole, was that there was a movie being planned in the mid '70s, and that they even hired a stop motion animator, I guess, to do like just sequences in the old, I guess, King Kong, Jason and the Argonauts style, where they were going to combine live action, because the actor that they had planned for Thongor was none other than I'll be back.
Arnold?
Yes, they were trying to get Arnold, and at the same time, they or maybe a couple years later, they actually cinched the deal for him to appear in the Conan movie. So I just put a post up on my Doomex Twitter saying that yet again Conan stole Thongor's thunder, not to be confused with Thundar. So yeah, great stuff out of the past, and these comics are out there. I remember seeing them when I was a kid, because I worked in a comic store when I was 12, and I saw like everything, but you forget. So that's there's some good, talking about some cool sword and sorcery stuff. Don't sleep on Thongor.
Yeah, I'll check it out if I ever see him.
Yeah, right. And it also goes to my my philosophy that there are no bad 20-cent Marvels. At least not to me.
Yeah.
They really get you the primary colors and the the up and coming artist that was on staff. And,
Well, they were very consistent.
Yeah, right. They had the formula. They had Stan Lee and Jack Kirby were still there. Roy Thomas was handling a lot of the day-to-day stuff, including trying to secure the rights for Thongor and trying to secure the rights for Conan, and putting artists on the books and stuff. amazing stories. Anybody else post anything interesting on Twitter this week to speak of, or socials, Instagram, and whatever else? I know you guys don't do Snapchat, but
No,
maybe
or
you
Twitter,
should.
or not Twitter.
Snapchat, Periscope.
Snapchat,
Well,
or
you got
Kickstarter. I mean, not Kickstarter. What's the other one?
TikTok.
TikTok. Yeah,
Twitch.
I don't do TikTok.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to. I had a working on my crime project. I'm trying to track down the owner of a certain property. So through all of my engagement, I ended up finding one artist and contacting him. And of course, he didn't have the owner's contact information, but he's like, "Oh, you might want to check, so-and-so, track so-and-so down, but so-and-so is now a musician and is only on TikTok." So I was like, I am not setting a TikTok up. So I literally started texting my siblings and friends. So anybody basically my age, "Hey, do you TikTok?" "No." "Hey, do you TikTok?" "No." "Hey, do you TikTok?" "No." And I'm like, "Jesus Christ." So then one of my sister's kids, I was like, "Let me see." Oh no, I was actually talking to my sister, and I was like, "Oh, does Max do?" She goes, "More than any human being should." So I actually got him to interface for me, to get some relative questions and stuff. But yeah, that's where I draw the line, is at TikTok. I will not get an account, and man. It's odd to see people our age only having a TikTok presence, but to each to their own.
Yeah, well, TikTok. I did get an account recently. I'm just learning
I didn't
the
know.
way, and I'm flipping through stuff there, and there's a lot of self-promotional posts. You're going through like the usual stuff of like girls dancing, and people are debating politics live. You can do lives on TikTok, but so many of them are like some kind of product that somebody's hawking. And apparently this is a big way to make money. If you have one of these little kitchen gadgets, or, or also just like doing referrals, to something. And,
Well,
people.
it's affiliate marketing.
Yes, exactly.
That whole crowd migrated to TikTok. So,
yep. And
which
there's
was a good thing.
Cottage industry of, somebody might be just, promoting a book that they like, and they might be getting a referral every time. They say sometimes, the referrers make more money than the authors of these things.
Yep. And you can actually, there are sites where you can set up, like, let's say, Turbo Pit Fighter, and we wanted to do an affiliate program to have people sell. We can set that up.
Yeah.
There's I think two heavy duty websites where you could have somebody out there on TikTok hawking your comic.
It could also be a whole page of curations, right, that you're bringing them over to, and anything they click on that they buy could be carry a little cookie that brings you back your referral.
Yep.
But that brings us to the conversation that we kind of ended with last week, when we had to jump off because we had a couple of interviews. But we were just getting into the apps and the tech to try and market oneself. And I think the conversation had just turned to whether to Kickstarter or not nowadays, for somebody like us. And this also goes into the conversation of what we're creating too, because if you're creating something for a target audience, what is it, how long is it, what's the format, do you do digital, all these kind of questions. So what is the latest on Kickstarter right now? What are you guys hearing with Kickstarter and comics right now?
I've heard that Kickstarter is the biggest publisher of comics, or the biggest distributor of comic books.
Yes, I heard.
I don't know whether
one out of every two non-bigs are going through Kickstarter. I heard that stat a couple months ago. Excuse me. So yeah, go on.
I mean, that's huge. That's a huge number, I guess. So it kind of feels like if you're not doing Kickstarter, then you're missing the boat.
Right, and if that sustains for a while, then you could have the whole iTunes dynamic where Apple becomes the biggest record company in the world by far because the ease and convenience of ordering things.
You need a drink of water?
Yeah, no, sorry.
I got one here. I got one right here. I haven't
Sorry,
taken a
guys.
sip yet.
I had a frog in my throat.
No, that happens to me all the time. So,
but yeah, is the trend continuing? I mean, 1 out of 2 comics. I don't care if that was a snapshot in time. That's pretty significant. And what happens is it becomes the place to go. Where I keep thinking the place to go should be some free and open exchange. And it could be something as simple as Facebook, which doesn't charge fees for people to make groups and accounts and, and hawk things online. But,
right.
But you also have to chase where the eyeballs are.
Right.
And so, go ahead.
My biggest, it's not a concern or a problem or whatever with Kickstarter is that you don't even like Kickstarters that do really well and raise a lot of money. It's like that's what it's about. It's more about raising money than the actual amount of people buying it. Like you could have like a $50,000 Kickstarter or whatever and have like 300 people or 400 people or something like that, or on a smaller scale, like raise $1,000 out of 50 people. So that is something to think about. I think is the amount of people versus how much money you're raising.
And right, that's a great point because people are literally just printing based on the money that they raise off Kickstarter. Okay,
Right.
I have enough to go forward. I'm going to actually print this book that I created, and if not, then you got to do some other plan B, which is which could be self-publishing and not getting that showcase on Kickstarter. So you can see why a lot of people do it.
Yeah, definitely.
The traditional model before all this technology was that you would kind of invest in the first issue and you would sell so many copies that would just naturally provide for the next issue and you keep going and you have your ups and downs but that it was minimally enough to cover a series and that's how the series would continue.
Right.
And
Which
then,
is why a lot of people failed because they couldn't do that. Like, especially I was saying, when you go through Diamond, it's actually 3 issues or 3 months that you have to plan on printing and producing on your own.
So Diamond doesn't even allow a one-off, even if you say it's a one-off?
Yeah, you can do a one-off, but I'm saying if you're doing a continuing series, then you have to be able to print and promote and sell 3 issues without getting any kind of money back.
Right. And if you're a publisher, as opposed to like an indie artist or like, a one-man band doing everything, that's a lot of money. If you're paying somebody, let's say you're paying $100 a page for pencils and inks, that's cheap. That's under probably the going rate for the average professional. You're talking about 2,000, and that's a 20-page book, which is a thin book, and that doesn't include the lettering and the
But may I jump in? I jump in? I think the real approach is not to run as a publisher, but run as a team. So the thing is like, you and I, Jake, if we put 100% of our time in, we're working 7 days a week, we would obviously be, very, very far out. If we were even more smart about it, I would say, let's get 3 issues in the can and then start releasing them in a highly proactive, professional way through Diamond Distribution. you know, to then see where everything kind of falls out. But my major concern is still why is a comic book store owner going to buy Turbo Pit Fighter? Is it because we have 3 issues in the can? Is it because we've got 1,100 people, you know, following us on YouTube? Because that's also what I heard is a part of the scrutiny you'll get when you're going through. You have to submit all of your social accounts. And if your social accounts over 1,000 people following you, or, you know, on the thing, they're just, how is anybody going to have reference to it in buying copies and putting them on their shelves in the store? Because back in the day, there was a drought in product. If you were going to the comic book store every week, you were looking for something and you would take your chances on it. Well, we live on the other side of that planet. There's too much. I get extreme. This is not even a joke. I get extreme anxiety when I walk into a comic book store, and it takes about 2 laps for me to say, okay, all of that side of the store, I have no interest in. I'm just going to judge it. I don't want anything to do with it. Bomb. And then I usually have to ask somebody, hey, do you have back issues from like the 70s and 80s, black and white stuff? I think so, right over there. And it's like a half a box, long box. And then I'll go through that. And sometimes I'll end up in a conversation with said owner / just person behind the counter. And that could be interesting. But, you know, it's really all about getting people to maintain a, you know, consistent behavior as the creator, but also the consistent behavior as the reader, you know, said follower.
So I go to the mall the other day because I was sending out some eBay stuff, and I stopped into Newberry because, you know, as Kurt knows, I have a gift certificate that I can't spend because I can't find anything I want in the mall store. But I'm in Newberry and I'm just looking to see what's on the shelves. You know, I pop in it's right next to the post office. So I just, you know, I'm just flipping through stuff and I'm like, all right, there's a nice cover at least, you know, or, you know, maybe there's a good, you know, artist on Batman nowadays, something. But this guy comes up on my right and he's looking at this. I'm just listening to him. He's talking to somebody on his phone, or I hope maybe he was talking to himself, but he was like, you know, oh, look at this. Oh man, I'm grabbing this. I'm grabbing a base copy and I'm grabbing this special foil copy. And then he grabs it and he's like literally running to the register. And again, he spent probably like $20 in the blink of 2 minutes. And you know, I looked at what he got. It was some DC promo gimmick thing where they take an alternate cover of you know, Birds of Prey or some female, you know, fronted, you know, title, and the girl is, or the woman is on the cover and everything else is just silver shiny. And that's it. I'm like,
so you know why he was probably excited?
Why?
Is he was going home and then locking the door and then turning on his Whatnot app, his Whatnot app, and he's gonna flip the thing.
Flipping it,
Yeah, he's gonna flip it. That's all. I can't. I would be so surprised. How old do you think that individual was?
He was in his late. He was like somewhere between 26 and 33.
Yeah, I would be super surprised if they were an extremely, you know, avid fan for whatever that is, because you know our business is in a speculative market. I think 9 out of 10 people make a judgment call on buying the book because there could be a chance that at some point down the road they could resell it because they want to get out of it, and they could make a percentage on top of what it is that they spend.
Yeah, but if you're a retailer, you're not buying off the shelf at Newberry, you know, that's jacking everything up. I mean, for Christ's sakes, they're charging $30 for a record now, you know, And they have good records. They're reissuing all the good stuff, but $30, that the actual cost of pressing that thing is probably like $6.50. So
Yeah, if that.
yeah, so they're predatory mall gougers, and they do have a section of Newberry exclusives, and so I can
Yeah.
see like digging in there if you're a retailer. But I once went up to the counter to get something, and it said like $4.99 on it, and they were starting to charge me like $11, and I'm like, what are you doing? It says $4.99, and they go, no, look at the back. There's a special sticker because this is the variant cover. And then I was like, well, forget this. Give me the regular cover. Like, I don't want any part of that. I'm just trying to
Right.
read the stupid thing. Yeah. So,
Right.
so the business goes on. I mean, and what I learned about reading up on like literally like Budweiser and Miller and these kind of companies, the reason that they've been like coasting along on fumes for all these years is just because they have gimmick cans. Like people, say, oh, this is a shiny can. Oh, this can changes when you, change the temperature. And this can has a picture of, Michael Jordan, or Taylor Swift, and the same crappy, beer is being just like, promoted and promoted with gimmicks. I mean, I told Kurt that everything in Newberry Comics is a number one, and that's kind of annoying.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, how long will it be before these gimmicks just kind of, wear off?
Well,
You know what?
I think that's the first thing, because there's obviously dips and ebbs and flows in comic buying and selling. I'm a pretty big seller. Um, like, and I had like a heyday during the the COVID where I was selling, left and right. And then afterwards, of course, everything dried up. But I mean, that's just how it has always been with comic books, where a whole lot of people will get excited about something and then buy, a whole bunch of copies, trying to make a lot of money. And so it's just the market
Yeah.
going up and down.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be a comic speculator. You could say the same thing about the plushies and the Funko toys, the big head, ridiculous Funko toys. Anything like you got Beanie Babies, you have orchids.
Right.
There could be,
Fidgets.
yeah, people are following
Fidgets.
crazes. I mean, what I saw last time I visited Whatnot, just to see what's going on. There are people making a tidy, and I mean tidy, chunk of change. They're selling these little 5x7, I want to say, cards, printed cards that have some sexy manga chick on there,
Yeah.
and that's all there is to it. And but they're kind of racy, like up the
Yeah.
skirt or whatever, or they're sitting on a stool with their legs akimbo, and they're big boobs, all that kind of stuff. But like selling a stupid printed card, I mean, we had the cards boom, trading cards
Yeah.
boom before that we've been through, but now it's just like, I guess they're called virgin covers. There's no title, there's no character name. It's just like, this is the latest thing. And I've seen, I mean, they don't sell for too much, but I'm sure they're selling for at least 50 times what they cost to print. And I've also seen some of these limited edition dealers that have like a cosplay chick on a cover, right? And it'll be just some random like indie comic with, some big boob character. But
Yeah.
this cosplay chick, and I forget her name right now, but she did these limited edition alternate covers, and this guy was selling them for $50 a pop. They were
Yeah.
going like crazy, or more because it's an auction. And and it would be like the same exact pose of the cosplay model on the cover, but then they would be like zoomed in, and there'll be a whole separate one. And then they would be
Yeah.
like zoomed out, and there would be like, what the hell? They're just milking this. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Forget about the quality of the content. That has
Yeah.
nothing to do with it.
Right. I think that's primarily intersection of the trading card guys and the comic guys, where the trading card guys, they kind of are what made the bubble in the early '90s and stuff, and probably back in the COVID days too, where the trading card guys are super speculative. They're super business people, and they will basically just follow the money. And like they were one of the first people that got into the Magic, the Gathering glut stuff. So it's less the true comic book readers, like you were saying, and more the trading card guys, which they're a completely different breed.
They are. They're in. They're just trying to buy something, sell it for more. There's nothing wrong with that. But then there is kind of like a salesmanship, where they have a following, and you don't imagine it's like little kids anymore. That's how it used to be. Like, hey kid, you want to see a Red Sonja comic? But they can very much steer their clients, and like, hey, you want a good investment, you want a no-brainer, get a couple of these. So they and in that way they're all kind of like curators, and you can see, when you walk into Newberry Comics, it's just some kid with like bangles hanging out of their nostrils, that is just stacking the comics alphabetically on the shelf, and nobody can see anything. You can't flip through them. You can't, find what you're looking for. It takes hours, as opposed to like a good mom and pop comic shop where you walk in and, you see all the good stuff. It's all eye level, visible, like flat covers that don't, overlap each other, and good comics, right? The good comics are all on the top, and then the alphabetical is down at the bottom. Marvel on the left, DC on the right, however you do it. And and that way you can separate the temporary crap from the actual content. But there that also varies. You have all these niches, so it's fair to say that people are trying to find their audience, and that it really is a free-for-all now at the comic shop, where
It really is.
everything's fighting for space. You can see some real kind of like amateurish, comic right next to something else, just depending on what letter it is, right? So,
Right.
that all goes with it. And then just the cashing in, it's just awful. I mean, Marvel is putting out, what if Ms. Marvel was Minnie Mouse?
Yeah.
And I'm like groaning. Oh God. I mean,
So if I can jump in real quick, because one of my things is like, we're not dealing with mainstream comics. At least I'm not. I don't ever sit down and go, I wonder what's going on in the Marvel DC universe. I'm not trying to place that on any of you guys. I'm just trying to make my stand in, the level of engagement of hearing what's this, and why is this, and everything. It's just junk food. In my opinion, it's just all junk food. But the thing is there is such an active community in the indie, and even if you want to call us like indie underground, that is far more, dare I say, savvy. Intelligent might be too lofty of a word, but savvy. In other words, most people in a year's worth of collecting or getting into comic books because a friend said, during COVID, you need to read whatever it is. Now you're down the rabbit hole. Now you're going, wow, this is pretty cool. I got all the time in the world to sit around and read, 350 issues of such and such, which I'm getting for $75 plus shipping and handling through eBay. But at the end of the day, now they're so savvy, they can smell bullshit years ahead, not even miles, like years ahead. In other words, if people are sitting down and grandiosely saying, I'm working on this comic book. I'm going to have this comic book. I got this idea. And they're like, okay, cool. I'll give you a second. 2 weeks later, you're like, where's this person? Where's this book coming? Where are they at? And, I know all of us right now can completely agree that in the pit of our guts, there's such a anxiety of like, well, am I wasting my time? Am I supposed to be making something like this, or should it lean closer to, you know, something on television, or dare I say manga, or the such? So, you know, to kind of steer us back to the Kickstarter thing and the anthology thing that we're really bringing the three of us together to talk about, you know, as a collaborative to promote ourselves. I just have to say, right after this episode, you know, we have Nathaniel J.K. coming on,
Right.
and for an interview, which, you know, Alex, you were always at us on that, and of course, we also got a copy of Random Access, which is, you know, it's your book, one of your books that you're working on, and then he has, you know, a little spot here, you know,
Right.
for that.
Right.
Alex,
Yep.
Alex, I want to put this on you. Like,
Okay.
would it best serve you to work with somebody like Jake and I in a let's say an expansive Random Access anthology, or do you have maybe some other like hope or idea?
So when you were talking about an anthology, I was thinking that you were talking about a Turbo Pit Fighter World anthology.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But you know, but really, an anthology could have anything in it. You know, I mean, it's great. It's great when they have a theme to tie them together. I was just showing Kurt an example of that last week. And you know, and then you have different creative teams. But you know, I think the bigger question is, you know, is how often is something going to, you know, be put out? You know, is it because if it's like a quarterly, people can take their time, but if it's a monthly, now you might be up against a deadline, and that might compromise things. So, you know, all those
What's
questions
it going
are.
to compromise? What's it going to compromise?
Well, if you're rushing something, and you know, as opposed to taking your time. I was showing Kurt that I picked up, I got this in a multi-pack, and I had no, like, you know, aspersions that it was going to be great or anything, and I was pleasantly surprised. This is Image Comics Ghost Machine #1, and what it actually is a collective of all these creators who got together, and they divided themselves into teams so that there's going to be one story here. This is an anthology, and you know, Ghost Machine is the overarching, you know, title of it, but they have this you know, this storyline that goes through the ages, and I'll show you. You know, this is kind of similar to what we're doing in the Turbo world here, where they have this timeline, and it starts here 1776, whatever their, you know, story is, you know, some power or some, you know, enemy or whatever, and then it goes to 1864, 1944, and so all these little stories are tied in through this one theme of this, you know, unnamed, whatever it is, you know, this power, this character, this creature. I don't know, I didn't read it that closely, but you know, it's really good art, really good, you know, art, coloring, and then they have all this kind of extra material stuff like Watchmen, and it just reminded me of an anthology where each one of these creative teams has said, okay, you guys have 8 pages, and you know, so the whole thing is more than 60 pages here. So you know, it's a collective, and these people just all got together on an idea, and you know, my question is, well, you know, can we pull something together and, you know, under a theme umbrella that this is the Turbo world, you know, which I've called on Substack the end of the world timeline. But really, you do have, you know, plenty of flexibility for an artist or a creator that says, yeah, I'd like to join that, but you know, I have a motorcycle guy, or you know, I'd like to join that, but I have a, you know, a super squadron of females or something, you know, and whatever their particular take on it, you know, in order to be part of this world, it would just have to subscribe to the timeline, and you know, as opposed to another kind of an anthology, you know, idea, which I'm also open to, which would have some turbo, would have some crom, it would have, like, you know, pretty much anything goes. But I wonder there, if you're finding, your audience, if someone's like, I like sword and sorcery, but there's only one 8-pager in here, do you lose them on the other stuff and not get the sale? All those kind of questions are definitely worth thinking about.
I think what would be best for, in particular, you guys, would be a Turbo Pit Fighter, like you said, anthology world. Would it be possible for you guys to do the anthology but not have it be your Turbo Pit Fighter stuff?
Well, yeah, one possibility is all side stories, but the other possibility is serializing Turbo, at the
Right,
same
right,
time. And
right.
and so one thing that it was basically Kurt's idea, but I love the idea, is that we started a Substack where we're creating sci-fi prose every week. I was just working on some last night. I got to tell Kurt all about it in a segment about the Tuesday cults, because that's one of the bullet points that that we published. And the possibility of collaborators coming in to do art, because the writing I could handle, as a regular recurring, let's say zine, or or some kind of publication. But when it comes to the art, clearly we're working on turbo pages, on our free Sundays, and so
Right.
so I was thinking, ideally, if we could find some artists who are pencils and or inkers, and they don't have any writing, they need scripts and they need ideas, to welcome them. All right, well, you could get a spot in this anthology. It could be regular if you're regular,
Mhm.
and the writing is offered free, because I'm trying to expand the world. And as far as like creator rights, I'm obviously a creator, so I'm open to any kind of mutually beneficial arrangement, but leaning towards putting something out, getting it done, flooding the zone, getting it out there, and not worrying about, I invented a character in the third panel who's got his finger up his nose, and and I want to copyright him with a patent office. Like, not getting bogged down in discussions like that, because as a musician, and artist, my motto is put it out and see, and
Yeah,
Mhm.
I
if you
agree.
actually have anything to argue about, then
Yeah,
then argue about it. So
yeah.
Right.
right, so
So
yeah,
one of the ideas, I have, and Alex, thank you for opening that page of our second turbo teaser
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
I think okay, I hope I hope I can convince Jake, but I'm doing this in a bit of a blindside for him, but it's something topically him and I have come back and forth on, which is, let's say Jake can put together those 2 pages every X amount of times a month. 1 time a month, 2 times a month, 3 times a month, 4 times a month. Alex, if Jake could put something like that together, and you're releasing your monthly for right now, it's still random access is your monthly, or
Yeah.
did you move to
Yeah.
Mutandis? It's still
No,
random. Okay,
it's random
because
access.
you do. Okay, so but you do have like the material I just shared with Nathaniel J.K., and it's sort of like the backup material that
Yeah.
you share. Is that probably a better place, Jake and Alex, to kind of maybe become committed to see if we have something to work towards, instead of trying to invent a new book and run it without actually participating in it?
Are you saying should you guys join an anthology of somebody else's?
Yeah, I'm
Is that what
asking
you're
you.
saying?
I'm asking you if Jake could put together 2 pages like that from our teaser once a month, that it could be backup material to random access.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh, totally. I've been
Okay.
thinking about adding 4 extra pages.
Oh,
And
okay.
And I have backups by Chris Knox and Paul Courtjohn, and they're pretty regular and stuff. But I don't really have the wide not appeal, distribution, I would say. I mean, I have my little Patreon, which is what I do for the random access, and then I have sales, like somebody just bought a bunch of them, but like it's not like, I don't go to conventions and stuff. So I think we might have to have somebody that like Nathaniel. Nathaniel is a great promoter, and he wants to become, kind of a bigger publisher. So I think we would need somebody of that caliber to be able to go out to cons, to go out to make a list of comic book stores that would want to sell it and stuff like that. You know what I'm
Would
saying?
you? So have you distributed books through Nathaniel?
No, no. I mean,
Why?
I've had stuff like I've had Mutandis and Random Access and stuff that he's gotten and taken to conventions and sold and stuff, but it hasn't been like an official thing.
Right. It's just
Okay.
consignment, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not even consignment. Just,
Cross-promoting.
here's cross
Yeah.
promotion. Yeah, really. Like the newest Mutandis has his do I have one here? Has his
Yeah,
his
because
stuff
what
in the on the back page is a list of his books. So
Oh
when
yeah,
somebody buys
yeah.
a Mutandis, number 6, they're gonna see his stuff at the back.
right, and that's what Kurt was asking about the zine pages there that could be monthly. It's basically just
Right.
an ad exchange that cross
Yeah.
pollinate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
But
would love to have your guys' stuff in there. Yeah, that would be cool.
right,
Oh,
because
thank you.
we're churning out at least, in a month we're churning out at least that much text, and we could pepper it with illustrations. Maybe not that many. Maybe there would be like, one or two on each page.
Nah, we could. We
Well,
could.
if you have a recurring masthead, that takes a little space, and then
Yeah.
you could have yeah. I mean, it
Your
depends.
funky fonts. I inked 2 of your characters. Ike and Mrs. Ike. So and then we had the Dune logo. We got the QR code. You threw in that little sketch. Was that
Do you
Alabama? Can't remember.
do you think that you guys could ever tone down the detail, I guess would be, and do extra anthology pages?
You saying
Um,
sequential, Alex?
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So I would
Like
let
it takes
let
you
me
guys
address that.
a
Let me
long
address
time
that.
to do. Yeah.
Right. So I was thinking the same thing to myself about doing like some side stuff in a simpler style.
Yeah.
And one of the things I can show here is that I was actually playing around with making an animated sequence, but it's a simpler style. So this would be a simpler, rougher style. And here I'm making it into movement. If you buy a tracing pad and you just start down at the bottom, then you just do your overlays, and you kind of like use your keyframes by skipping pages, and then keep on going. But it's not only possible. I mean, we're already doing it. I have a project I'm working on with my students called Pearl White Malady, that's already into its fifth chapter, and one issue basically ready to go, full color. And that's a style where I do the pencils for the kids, and then the kids do the inking and coloring to various degrees of of quality. But
Right.
that's the whole point, is that it's
Yeah.
it's done by kids. It's got that amateurish look. And the same thing goes for my love of Commandy, where Kirby is adopting this much quicker style that he's using to his benefit to make 3 titles a month and doing a lot
Right.
more basic storytelling. So that's possible too. But to really, like, I think ultimately that the art should have Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe you see, this as more of like, more like installments and disposable, rather than long term. But we definitely have our turbo style, which is,
Right. It's
heavily
very
invested in detail and
right. It's
careful
very
work.
intricate.
Right,
And that's
right,
awesome. That's awesome that you guys have the intricate detail, but it does take a long time. And
sure.
uh yeah, so I was just wondering if you thought you could. I know you can physically, like anybody can put less detail into stuff, but morally, would you feel like you're,
Well, you know what it brings up,
into it?
Alex, and it is a conversation. Once again, Jake and I revolve around probably every other episode, if not every third episode. Jake's pencils as they stand, if you boost up the levels just by like about 20%, they go black line pretty damn quickly. The
Right.
the question Jake and I kind of run across is like, do you release them without the text? I kind of like that. Like it's a form of teasing, but also inducing the level of technique and time being put on it. But then it's also causing this like, what the hell is being said? Like, what is she saying? Like, and maybe even like that childlike, like I'm gonna add my own thoughts in here and then take a picture and post it on Instagram and tag Jake and Kurt.
Right.
That has like far more, in my opinion, value than a quick style that I have in the past adopted, especially in the early 2000s. And I'm actually kind of trying to go back to it with some like similar things, like a stage of working. Like when Jake just showed that, it's so creepy sometimes when Jake has done something during the week and I'm thinking similar to it. But that
Yeah.
damn vellum pad, that tracing pad, that's the same kind of idea. Is like there's so many things that can happen once you have established this.
Right.
I mean, there's nothing stopping Jake from like, Jake and I cutting this panel out and then dumping prose and then some, you know what I mean? So like even this page itself could be 5 pages.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the content itself, I don't think needs to be quote unquote quickly done and then like, okay, done, forgotten. I think it can have more of like a stepping stone. I even see that in your work, Alex. There's times where I'm like, is Alex going to come back to this like color?
Right.
Or it's not like because you're in such a monthly mode, which is very
Yeah.
admirable.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think to myself, there's no way he's going to say that this is done. Like if
Right.
he
Yeah.
goes like, okay, hey, I got 150 pages. I'm going to put them all together into a trade paperback, and I'm going to start with page 1, and I'm going to
Right.
I'm going to rewrite a little bit of text and kind of formulate things because from page 1 to 150, we all know that happens. So then there's this, all those fans then become super fans because they have that insider info.
Right.
I got the singles, which you print yourself, which once again I got to commend you on controlling the distribution of hand printing your own comics.
Right.
But when it gets down to that, let's say final tome, even for your super fans, it's even far more valuable because you're returning to page 1 and going on and remastering them.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Like I've gone because I had a volume 1 and a volume 2 of Random Access, and some of the volume 2 was actually just coloring the issues of volume 1. And but what I'm kind of what I'm saying is that like my newest issue of Random Access is actually a daily strip that I did on Instagram. And have you guys ever done a daily strip?
No. I've
I
thought about it though.
I have.
I
I have not for long though.
yeah,
I was once. Well, I don't know if it was daily, maybe more like a weekly for like the Village Voice. But I was once hired by a writer, and I did it. And in the early days, I did a couple of examples. I also had a single panel thing, a booklet that I put together with my brother that are kind of goofy, like The Far Side. But I know what you're saying, because that's what this has been done before. Is like you do single panels or strips, and then
Yeah.
they're serialized later, in this
Right.
kind
Right.
of like film strip format, right? We've all seen that, like the compilations of Little Orphan Annie and everything, very historic stuff. Oh yeah, you got it right there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this is my People of Andor that I did, and it's super inspired by Ben Mara's what we mean by yesterday, where he was
I was
just
just
trying
thinking
to
that.
do, he was just trying to put down really fast, really simple characters and lines, and trying to build a story. Um, really be doing it as fast as you can and as high quality as you can, but you've also have to kind of come to terms with doing that in both of those things. So yeah, I would highly recommend trying it, even if it doesn't last for a long time, because there's so much you can learn as an artist by just trying to do a daily thing. It's
Yeah.
an amazing learning thing.
Right. Well, I mean, when I
Agree.
sit down with my sketchbook, if I have like 2 minutes, I try to make sketches that we are going to include, or illustrations, let's call them, in the Substack. And that might be pencil this week, and it might be ink next week. Who
Right.
knows? Maybe Kurt will take a liking to it and ink it, but I could certainly ink it myself. Sometimes I do. So, there's a lot of I guess flexibility if you're talking about prose mixed with pictures, because that does not take long for me to do. But sequential pages, even when I try to work in like a quicker style, um I do get bogged down. Some of it's my OCD, where I
Yeah. Yeah.
hate blank spots on a page. I want to put something in there. And I also don't like scribbling. Kurt knows that's another one of my pet peeves.
Yeah.
But that's why I think ideally I'm waiting for some other contributors to come along. Maybe somebody young that we're going to mentor, or maybe somebody that's been around and they just want to do it for fun. We're seeing a lot of other guys that are doing their own thing. They're doing exactly
Mhm.
what we're doing, but they're just they want to do their own world and their own property, and you totally get that.
Yeah.
But eventually we'll find somebody that wants to, like, get some exposure and get a start, and maybe they'll say, hey, because in a couple of weeks or months we will have a total of 3 6-page scripts that are ready to go, and they're basically like auditions, so that somebody could create a teaser, and then you have options at that point. Maybe you want to crowdfund, some money, to try and get the 6-pager turned into a full comic. um there's all kinds of different things you can do, but it's people that are kind of doing it for the love, versus the option of raising money and subsidizing it, which is what, like, somebody like Matt King does. He has this like 400-page book that he puts out, and he pays the artists, for all
You're
the
right.
pages. So, and
Right.
and he was also forthcoming about the finances of it. It's like, yeah, something I want to do till the day I die. I love making comics and expressing myself. He's got some great ideas, a lot of kind of humor, underground references, comic references. He's got some sick stuff as far as his content, like it's kind of like sacrilegious on purpose content and stuff. So he's having a ton of fun, and he's got a great product. um but but I don't think Kurt or I expect to be day job guys, to be like full-time guys. We're day job guys, and we're doing this in the cracks, at least for the next couple of years. um
Mhm.
and then once I have my 20 and I can retire from the DOE, God knows what I'm going to do with my time. But I would love at that point to have a whole bunch of collaborators lined up, so that I can do, basically do a small publishing concern, and have, different characters coming out, different storylines coming out, having Turbo being in much more rapid production at that point, and and with the goal of the graphic novel. But one thing at a time, and so Kurt and I really just try to keep this schedule on this pace that we're on, to just keep that regular at least, because little by little we're churning out pages. I mean, if I was to take the first, I'm on page 21 right here of the pencils, and Kurt's absolutely right. I could just take this into Photoshop. I could do a couple of tricks where I'm like doing a purple and orange duotone. I'm creating a layer mask out of the pencils and then feathering it on a layer beneath it, and then saturate that with color, with a holding line on top. And that would look, I do that a lot with posters and stuff. That would look inked, it would look like its own, thing. But
Right.
I prefer what Kurt's adding, in his inks. That's a whole other, ball game.
Yeah.
So, this could be a lot quicker, but it's not. Like, we're working towards something that we're really just kind of eating it for now and just investing. And that's the whole purpose of the podcast, is just to try to get like a following of people that are into the process. And
Right. Right.
that's kind of weird, but it's different.
Yeah. So to break it down, do you want to make an anthology?
Still.
So I mean,
I'm
to
just
me,
like,
the answer is yes. It's a no-brainer, but that's just that's a one-off. And then the question is, do you want to make a regular anthology? Right, that's another question.
See,
And if so, how regular? Another complication I could introduce right now is, and Kurt, I think I've told this to Kurt before, but I have a whole bunch of old comics, kid comics, like I call it kid comics, but I have like all these pages that are, starts and stops. I have at least one 8-pager that's all pencils, not inks, but it's like a kind of like a horror story. So there's all different crap I have laying around that one day I'm going to just like put it in front of Kurt on an episode. It's just going to be like, hey, that's interesting. That's interesting. I mean, I have my Power comics when I was like 15 that I haven't shown, called Nightmares About a Dread, and that's a full, zine, photo
yeah.
booklet that I put out, when I was, to my 10 friends or whatever. But so there's all this kind of like adjacent stuff. Some of it has not really too much rhyme or reason to anything else. But if you're just talking like an anything goes anthology, I have a lot to contribute there. The other option is getting other people, to put their wares in there, and just kind of like um, dividing up spaces, like let's say 8-page chunks, and and saying, it could be to a completely other team. Do you want an 8-page, regular space in this anthology with the goal of making it more regular? I
So
think
I just think the because we're coming up on an hour. We are we've got to follow up an interview with Nathaniel J.K. I just want to put it out, yes, to answer Alex's question. Do we want to make an anthology? Though I feel the reality at this point is we need these next 6 pages together. And I believe when we get the 3 free comic scripts that have Turbo World centric material, they're only like 6 pages long. I think then, Alex, the 3 of us can get back together and have a substantially more, a deeper conversation in how to then proceed. Because I would just like to say that it would be really awesome to see your contribution, Alex, to the Turbo world. But you're in a blind spot as well as anybody else. Even holding the last Turbo teaser at 12 pages long and 2 pages of like prose matter. So, Jake and I honestly have to be committed to what it is we're doing every Sunday.
Yeah.
But there's
Yeah.
nothing saying that our next teaser can't be a collaborative anthology event.
Right, with spin-offs. I mean, there's so much already in the prose installments on Substack that an artist can say, "Hey, I like this character, I like this storyline," or maybe can we make a storyline that has this, and this in it? And then I'll be like, "Yeah, sure, let's do it," but basically taking from that, looking at those bullet points, finding some way in, based on like, oh, I like doing robots, or I like doing, gore, or I like doing whatever. So yeah, and like, the world is open, but Kurt and I definitely see it as advantageous to not only us, but anybody that works with us to use the pod to promote, and and then if there's something in print that's more regular, it really helps the pod, and the pod helps it. And I think it might be very hard, but trying to build up, a following that can be regular. I think it all goes hand in hand. Using the tech and the socials and the pod and the YouTube really just to drive it all. And so
Yeah.
I could see, you know, I could see going forward on a first issue, and then, learning from that and seeing what's going on. And then, maybe there's a lot of stuff that doesn't make it in, and then you're already halfway there to the next issue. But, but we got to just be upfront about timelines and deadlines and stuff, because we don't impose deadlines. It's done when it's done. And that's great. But you also have something good going on too, where you're regular, and people can always look in at a new installment in a time interval. So they both have both have their advantages. I think the way to be able to do both would be bringing more people on.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely think you need more people. Um, what I envision for you guys and for an anthology, because as soon as I heard you guys were talking about an anthology, my brain started clicking for characters. What kind of character would I create for a Turbo Pit Fighter world and stuff like
Oh,
that?
wow.
And that's what every artist is going to do. They're
Right.
going to, like when you start that Crom anthology, as soon as people start thinking about it, that's when all of
Yep.
their ideas are going to start floating
Yep.
around and stuff.
Yep.
So
So
so so with that, check this out, because Kurt knows I was following all this NFT nonsense, and and what was
yeah,
going on. They had these big plan, like different investors, developers. I don't know how much monopoly money was being thrown around, but they have these big. I mean, there's still this thing going on right now where there's this whole virtual real estate, and the idea is that if you want to buy your plot of land in this virtual
yeah, yeah.
megaverse,
I did that.
multiverse, whatever, you can buy it, right? And it's like so stupid, like the money that people were getting. Oh, I'm gonna buy the Taj Mahal, right?
Yeah,
But the turbo verse could be that. It could be like, hey, I want to do a story about what's going on, during these years in China, or I want to do what's going on in Alabama, or
yeah,
hey Jake, here's one thing you haven't covered, like you're doing the pleasure bots, but what about the fertility clinics, or what about, like, what's happening with the highways and the roads? I mean,
yeah,
it
yeah,
could be any kind of angle that you come in, that they just like slice off a little piece of it.
yeah,
All
yeah.
right. So
Possibilities
let's
are endless.
yeah, exactly. Alex, I can't thank you enough for jumping on with us once again
Yeah,
on this on these lazy Sundays.
yeah,
But this is not the last time. We obviously have something in the kick. It's moving.
yeah,
Our wheels are spinning and stuff. And as time moves on, we're going to be there. Just so everybody knows, this is page 26 of 28. I will be completed this page next Sunday, which means then that following Sunday, I will be on the next 6 pages to put in my gray valuing approach to inking. So then we're going to get closer and closer to having something that would be our third teaser with however we want to arrange it. But now the excitement, now the excitement is we've got, Alex Turbin, and I don't want to put anything out there ahead of time, but this conversation is going to just totally moosh into the conversation we're about to have with Nathaniel J.K. But with that being said, Alex, please take some time, show us your comics, tell us where we can find you out there in the interwebs.
Well, this is the newest issue of Random Access. Like I said, it's a reprinting of The People of Bandor, which was the daily strip that I did for Instagram. It's my first wraparound cover, so I'm pretty happy about that.
So cool.
And this is actually going to be on newsprint. Publishing on newsprint, printing on newsprint is a pain, and it has a lot of issues to it. So I was lucky enough to find a bunch that I can print on, and so all of my extra stuff like Mutandis, this just came out, Mutandis number 6, and this is all on newsprint as well, and it just continues the story that was in Random Access number 9, volume 1, but it continues it. So this is all just the newest Mutandis stuff, and so yeah, you can find me on alexanderturbin.com or Patreon /Alex Turbin.
Can't escape the Mutandis.
Mutandis is everywhere.
Right. Yeah. Thanks, Alex. I can't wait. Can't wait next week. We'll talk about what characters you might be thinking of, and don't worry, like we'll call it like just spitballing or something.
All right. One quick question I have for you guys, because talking about Mutandis, I worked on Mutandis with 2 other guys, and the relationship kind of has changed and evolved into a kind of deteriorated. I'm wondering what you guys have done if you guys break up, and what happens to Turbo Fighter.
It's impossible. It's impossible.
That's what everybody says.
Jet can't hide in any corner of the world from me. He's stuck with me. He's stuck.
Right. I think the question is more what happens if somebody gets hit by a bus, but
just don't get in front of one.
Yeah, but we should bring that up too, because like working arrangements and getting things understood and settled, right? Like Kurt's really just kidding around, like because anything can happen in the world, right?
Yeah.
But we should talk about that. So I'm gonna note that. I'm gonna jot that down as a.
It's a great question. Thank you, Alex.
Yeah.
All right. So folks, Jake, take us out.
Yes, we'll see you next week. If you're watching us on Instagram, you could have had a much better experience on YouTube, seeing 3 different screens as we're drawing, inking, whatever. You're probably only seeing Kurt on Instagram because ever since we went to 3, it just went to 1. And so we should have said that before, but always catch our lives on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. Just put in Turbo Pit Fighter YouTube and you'll find it right there. And you know about Alexander's Patreon. You can catch kurtbrugel.com, find copies of his store there, and the Turbo teasers. So we will see you guys all next Sunday. Take care, all.
Hold tight, Alex. We'll let you upload.
Yep. It's doing its thing.
Yeah, I don't even know what the heck it's doing, but
sorry to hit you with a last minute